you guys? My name is Aubrey, this is my channel, and today I'm going to be answering a question that I get asked all of the time, like very literally, probably on a daily basis every day for the last year. And that is the question of where do I park all of my Turo cars? I have 13 Turo cars. In fact, as this video is going live, it may be up to 14. I have a camper van that is currently being converted, and I also have a personal car, as does my fiance. That brings us to 17 cars total amongst all of the cars that we own. And a question that I get asked all the time is where do I park these cars and how is it not an issue for my neighbors that live next to me? So in this video, I'm going to be answering this exact question. So let's get started. So like I mentioned just a moment ago, I currently have 13 cars for the Turo platform. I'm actually looking to buy one, so depending on when this video goes live, I may be up to 14, but as of right now, 13 solidified. I also have a camper van. I also have 2 cars that I drive for personal use. One is mine, one is my fiance's. And a question that I get all the time is where do I park these cars? How do I store these cars to where it's not an issue for my neighbors? And to be honest, I never thought about making a video about this topic because I never thought that it was something that was that interesting. Parking my cars has never been that much of an issue. But the fact is, I've been getting these questions every single day for the last year, and I felt like it was finally time to make a video on the subject. Now, the simple question here is that my cars are never really parked all at once, so parking is never really an issue. But I understand that this is the case for me, but it may not be the case for everybody, and because of that, I feel like I need to go into a bit more detail. Now, I rent a commercial parking lot. It's actually one that is just a couple of minutes from my house. I pass it every day that I take my dogs on a walk. I could walk there very easily. I could skateboard there. It is very, very close. Now, I actually didn't rent this lot out because I wanted somewhere to store my cars. I instead rented it because I didn't want renters knowing where I lived. Whenever it comes to Turo, there is inevitably going to be issues that come up with guests, and I personally don't feel comfortable having renters know exactly where I live and where they could potentially go to if there was an issue or a dispute with some sort of fee that I charged, or if there was an accident. You never know, people are crazy, and I was really uncomfortable with the idea of having renters know where I live. As a result, I've never done key exchanges outside of my house. Now, I do know of a lot of hosts that do this. I know of a lot of hosts that opt to do all of the key exchanges outside of their house for convenience. But for me, this simply was not something that I was comfortable with. So I opted for a commercial lot. Now, for me, the commercial lot had to be close to my house. It had to be very, very convenient to get to because I knew that if it was 5, 10, 15 minutes away, it would take up a big chunk of my day because I oftentimes will go to the lot multiple times a day. And I didn't want to have to ride a 10, 20-minute round trip in order to go check in a car, clean a car, fix a car, whatever the case is. So I opted to choose a lot that just happened to be very, very close to my house. And it worked out very, very well for me because the lot used to be an office building. The office building burned down like 20 years ago. As a result, it's been vacant ever since. I contacted the owner of the lot, offered to pay him $100 a month. I told him I would clean up the lot, keep an eye on the lot, and he took me up on the offer, and I've been renting it ever since. Now, when it comes to the issue of parking cars, specifically cars for a Turo fleet, I think that this is oftentimes an issue that is overthought. I think that a lot of people worry about this, a lot of people really overstate this issue, and the fact is, it's just not really an issue. If you have your cars at a competitive rate, if you keep your cars available and easy to book and super convenient for the guest, your cars should be rented out the vast majority of the time. In fact, it is very, very rare for me to have more than 3 cars sitting at any point in time, and even when these 3 cars are sitting, it's oftentimes just for overnight or for a few hours before it's picked up again for another rental. So the issue of storing has never really been an issue at all because my cars are always booked out. Now, the one time that this was an issue was with COVID, and it was whenever lockdowns occurred and COVID was kind of at its peak. Now, here in Texas, we only went on lockdown for a very, very short period of time. I believe it was like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month max, where things were actually closed, businesses were closed, and the roads were dead. During this period of time, all of my cars were not booked, meaning all my cars were at my lot or at my house. During this time, I did spread my cars across multiple locations. I put some at my house, I kept some in my garage, I believe I took some to my dad's house, I kept some at my lot, because I didn't want all of my cars sitting at the same location all at once. This was due to the fact that I didn't want somebody to come and like steal all of my tires in one sweep or come and spray paint my cars or vandalize my cars. I wanted my cars to be spread out for security reasons. And so that's what I decided to do. Now, when it comes to the other cars that are included in our car count, like our camper van, for example, we are currently building that in our backyard. I actually did a video of how we got our camper van in our video. I made it now about a year ago. And we actually took apart our fence and drove our camper van into our backyard. That way we could build it and work on it whenever we wanted to without disturbing our neighbors. As for our personal cars, we will often park those in our driveway, and whenever we have cars that are getting repaired or need work, we will either park those in front of our house or inside of our garage. Even as our fleet has grown, the issue of parking still has continued to not be an issue. The cars are always booked out. It's never been a problem. There has never been this question of, I have too many cars, where do I put them? How do I store them? How do I deal with this? Now, when it comes to just the general circumstance and the general question of storing cars on Turo, you could of course go the route that I've done and you could rent a commercial lot. This is something that is going to be more doable, more practical for some people over others. I live in the DFW area. This type of thing was relatively cheap for me to do, especially where my lot is located, and as a result, I was able to find one in a very, very cost-effective way. If you were in like San Francisco or LA, for example, the cost may not make sense for you to rent a lot or for you to rent commercial spaces. And because of that, depending on where you live, will drastically dictate your parking situation. I know people who've lived in Chicago who operate their entire car fleet in the Chicago market, and they simply use street parking. I know of people that have full-fledged like lots where they have 30 to 40 spaces and they operate a full-fledged operation. I know people that have purchased land and they operate their lots out of land that they own. There is a lot of different routes that you can pursue, and it's really going to be dictated by number one, how many cars you have, number two, where you live, and number three, what resources you have available to you. For me, renting a small commercial lot made sense, but for a lot of people, that may not make quite as much sense. Now, whenever it comes to storing your cars or operating a Turo business out of your house, I think that the biggest thing that you need to keep in mind is to be respectful of your neighbors. It is a pretty standard practice for municipalities and local governments to not allow people to operate businesses outside of your house. And I understand in the context of peer-to-peer car sharing, it's technically not a business, it's not a rental car company, but the line is definitely a bit fuzzy here. And I've heard so many stories of people who are operating a rental car company, operating a Turo fleet out of their house, and then they end up getting in trouble by their local government or by their neighbors because too many people are complaining. People complain about excessive cars, excessive noise, people coming and going at odd hours, and the list goes on and on. This can cause you to have a ton of issues, and this can ultimately end up being the end of your Turo fleet if you don't play your cards right. This is where simply respecting your neighbors comes into play. Now, we do have a commercial lot where we store our cars, but we also have a lot of cars coming and going all day, every day. Our lot is located a couple of minutes from our house, and we do all of our repairs, all of our maintenance, all of our cleaning outside of our garage, which means our neighbors see what we're doing, they see the cars coming and going, they know we operate a Turo business, but none of them really care. The fact is, we've been really open and really transparent about what we are doing with these cars. We make sure to not operate loud machinery very early in the morning or late at night. We try to be respectful with the noise. We don't leave trash out. We don't have people coming and going from our house at all hours of the day. We make sure to understand that our house is our house and we technically shouldn't be operating a business outside of it. And as a result, we don't treat it like a business when we are at our house. We treat it as though we're working on our personal cars. So we keep the music down, we keep tools to a minimum, we don't operate an air compressor at midnight, and so on and so forth. In fact, if I have to go clean a car very early in the morning, I will typically bring a portable vacuum and vacuum it in a random parking lot. That way my neighbors don't hear the vacuum running at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning. But again, just to reiterate, I think that this is a topic that new hosts on Turo really overstress about. Parking and car storage isn't a big deal, and it's not something that will be an issue as long as you use your common sense. Don't be blatant with your business that you're operating. Don't be disrespectful to your neighbors. Make sure to use your space and your space only, meaning don't park in front of somebody's house, even if it's technically legal in your area. As long as you do these things, then parking will not be an issue and storage shouldn't be an issue. If it does become an issue, then you can explore some alternative routes. You could go the commercial route that I've done. You could go the route of just renting a few parking spaces. You could approach an office manager or an office building and see if you could rent some spaces from them. You could also go the storage unit route and maybe rent some storage units. It's just a matter of what's available to you, what works with your budget, and what works with your location. Don't overthink it. It's a simple problem. It has a simple solution. But with it being said, you guys, I hope that you found this video interesting. I know that it's not exactly a sexy topic. I know that it is very anticlimactic, but the fact is, this is a question that I've been getting for so long, very literally on a near daily basis for like a year. And so it's time for me to finally address it. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.